The Purple House. Lily hummed along to the radio, each note a tiny bubble of happiness bursting in the lavender-scented air. Boxes lay scattered like fallen dominoes across the living room floor, disgorging their contents: vintage teacups, stacks of well-loved books, and a collection of quirky, hand-painted birdhouses. Sunlight streamed through the amethyst-tinted windows, painting the room in shifting shades of violet. This was it. Her purple sanctuary. Across the street, behind lace-curtained windows, Agnes Crabtree's lips thinned into a disapproving line. She gripped her floral-patterned mug so tightly her knuckles turned white. The audacity. A purple house. In her neighborhood. It was an affront to good taste, to property values, to everything she held dear. Lily, blissfully unaware of the scrutiny, wrestled a bag of potting soil onto the porch. She'd found the perfect vibrant petunias at the garden center: fiery reds, electric blues, sunny yellows. They'd be a cheerful splash of color against the house's lavender walls. She arranged the overflowing pots along the porch railing, humming a different tune now, a little louder, a little bolder. Agnes watched, her frown deepening into a scowl. She imagined the purple paint slowly chipping, the bright flowers attracting bees, wasps, even. It was chaos, pure and simple, a blight on the landscape. She set down her mug with a sharp clink. Enough was enough. She would nip this floral rebellion in the bud before it spread. Letters of complaint. The first letter arrived on a Tuesday, crisp and officious in its stark white envelope. Lily recognized the return address immediately: 14 Willow Creek Lane, Agnes Crabtree, President, HOA. Inside, the message was brief: notice of violation, flower pots exceeding approved size and color palette. Immediate remediation required. Lily stared at her cheerful, mismatched collection of pots bursting with petunias and herbs. Exceeding approved size? They were from Home Depot. Color palette? What color palette? Sighing, she lugged the two largest, a bright turquoise and a sunny yellow, to the back patio, replacing them with smaller, terracotta ones. A week later, another letter. Notice of violation, mailbox ornamentation deemed excessive. Refer to Section 3, Paragraph 12 of HOA bylaws. Corrective action mandatory. Lily had painted a small ladybug on the side of her mailbox. Exasperated, she scrubbed it off with steel wool until the metal gleamed dully. Just to be sure, she also straightened the mailbox, ensuring it stood perfectly upright, a model of suburban conformity. The letters kept coming, each more ridiculous than the last. The height of her grass 1/4 of an inch too long. The placement of her welcome mat allegedly obstructing pedestrian traffic, though no one ever walked on her lawn. The color of her bird feeder not harmonious with the neighborhood aesthetic. Lily felt like she was being slowly suffocated by Agnes Crabtree's petty tyranny. She started jumping every time the mailman came. The once welcoming porch now felt like a battleground. An unwelcome visitor. The scent of jasmine, usually a comforting welcome, felt cloying as Lily approached her porch. She fumbled for her keys, then stopped. The door wasn't just ajar, it was hanging open, the brass knob gleaming mockingly in the late afternoon sun. A chill snaked down her spine, sharper than the autumn air warranted. Had she forgotten to lock it? She never forgot. Hesitantly, she pushed the door open further. "Hello?" Her voice trembled, barely a whisper. From the living room, a raspy voice cut through the silence. "Just making sure everything's up to code, dear." Lily's jaw dropped. Mrs. Crabtree, clipboard clutched in her bony hand, stood in the middle of her living room, peering critically at Lily's handcrafted macrame plant hanger. Her lips were pursed, her eyes narrowed behind her thick glasses. A small, leather-bound notebook dangled from her other hand, its pages filled with spidery script. "Mrs. Crabtree." Lily's voice, finally finding its volume, cracked with disbelief. "What on earth are you doing in my house?" Agnes Crabtree didn't flinch. "Just a routine inspection. Notice you haven't taken down those Halloween decorations yet. Against regulation, you know? And that yarn monstrosity clashes horribly with the approved color palette." She scribbled something furiously in her notebook. Rage, hot and sudden, flared in Lily's chest. "You broke into my house? This isn't a routine inspection. This is trespassing. Get out. Get out of my house right now." Lily pointed towards the door, her hand shaking. Mrs. Crabtree sniffed, unfazed. "Don't get your knickers in a twist, dear. Just trying to maintain property values." But she edged towards the door, her beady eyes fixed on Lily. "I'll be reporting these violations. Setting up security." "I feel like I'm losing my mind, Sam," Lily confessed, picking nervously at a loose thread on her floral sofa. "Mrs. Crabtree, she broke into my house." Sam's eyebrows shot up. Broke in? Seriously? Did you call the police? No, Lily admitted, shamefaced. I panicked. And she didn't steal anything. She said she was inspecting for HOA violations. I just told her to leave. Sam swore under his breath. That's insane, Lily. You should still report it. He paused, considering. Okay, look, reporting it is one thing, but we need to make sure this doesn't happen again. How about we set up some cameras? Hidden ones. She won't even know they're there. Lily's eyes widened. Cameras? I don't know, think of it as insurance, Sam said gently. Peace of mind. I've got a few small ones we can install. They're motion-activated, send alerts to your phone. It'll be like having a silent guardian. An hour later, the living room was a controlled chaos of wires and tiny cameras. Sam, ever the pragmatist, was carefully positioning one inside a faux succulent on the bookshelf. Lily, perched on a ladder, wrestled with another, trying to camouflage it within a hanging macrame planter. Almost. Got it, she huffed, finally wedging the camera securely. Think she'll notice a slightly fatter spider plant? Sam chuckled, adjusting the angle of the succulent. Not a chance. This place is a jungle. He stepped back, surveying their work. All right, just a couple more strategically placed and we're good to go. Then Mrs. Crabtree can inspect all she wants. We'll be watching. Breaking and entering. Lily nearly choked on her coffee. The notification on her phone screen pulsed, motion detected at front door. She tapped the app and the grainy image swam into focus. There she was. Agnes Crabtree in her signature floral pantsuit, standing on Lily's porch, a glint of metal in her hand. Lily's heart hammered against her ribs. Not again. Mrs. Crabtree fiddled with something at the doorknob, a thin, silver tool Lily couldn't quite identify. A sickening click echoed from the phone speaker. The door swung inward. Lily gripped her phone, nails digging into the plastic. This wasn't a casual peek through the window. This was breaking and entering. She watched, paralyzed, as Mrs. Crabtree stepped inside, a small, smug smile playing on her lips. The camera feed shifted, following the motion. Mrs. Crabtree marched directly to the living room window, pulling a measuring tape from her oversized handbag. With meticulous precision, she measured the length of Lily's curtains. Then she scribbled something in a small notepad. Next, she moved outside, pacing along the edge of Lily's meticulously manicured lawn. She crouched, pressing the measuring tape into the grass. Another note. Lily's hand tightened on her phone. Had she crossed a line? This wasn't just petty harassment anymore, this was illegal. A slow burn ignited in Lily's chest, hotter than the coffee she'd nearly choked on. She was done being passive. Caught on camera. The tremor in Lily's hand vibrated through her phone as she dialed 911. I need to report a break-in, she stammered, her voice wavering. She rattled off her address, the words tumbling out in a rush, painting a picture of forced entry and unauthorized curtain measurements. The dispatcher, thankfully, remained calm, assuring her an officer would be there shortly. 10 minutes later, 2 officers stood on her porch, their expressions a mixture of professional stoicism and thinly veiled amusement as Lily explained. I installed cameras after the first incident, she said, gesturing towards the living room. I have video evidence. She led them to her laptop, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she pulled up the footage. The officers watched, their amusement fading as Mrs. Crabtree materialized on screen, a measuring tape snaking across Lily's living room window. The second clip showed her meticulously examining the lawn with what appeared to be a soil pH meter. That's Agnes Crabtree, one of the officers said, a flicker of recognition in his eyes. Lives a few houses down. Head of the HOA, I think. He exchanged a look with his partner. Ma'am, this is unusual. The arrest. Mrs. Crabtree? The deep voice startled Lily. 2 uniformed officers stood in her doorway, blocking the afternoon sun. Mrs. Crabtree, perched on the arm of Lily's floral sofa with a measuring tape looped around her neck, gasped. Officers, I can explain, Mrs. Crabtree began, her face reddening to match her floral print dress. I was just assessing the property. She gestured vaguely with the tape measure. Assessing. The taller officer raised an eyebrow. Ma'am, we have a report of unlawful entry and unusual landscaping activities. He glanced at the roll of sod still sitting by the front door. Lily, though still bewildered, felt a strange sense of vindication. She broke in, she stated, her voice surprisingly firm. And she's been measuring my curtains. The officers exchanged a look. Mrs. Crabtree, you're under arrest for breaking and entering. The officer produced handcuffs. Mrs. Crabtree sputtered, protesting loudly about property values and neighborhood aesthetics. But the officers were unmoved. As they led her out, A small crowd of neighbors had gathered on the sidewalk, their faces a mixture of shock and morbid curiosity. Martha from next door covered her mouth with her hand, while old Mr. Henderson shook his head, muttering about the decline of society. Mrs. Crabtree, usually so composed, was a flustered mess, her hair askew, her voice shrill as she was guided into the back of the police car. The slam of the car door echoed in the sudden silence, leaving Lily standing in her doorway, feeling a strange mix of relief and disbelief. The roll of sod seemed to mock her from the porch. The fluorescent lights of the hearing room hummed, mirroring the tremor in Lily's hands. Mrs. Crabtree, perched stiffly in her chair, addressed the panel with a practiced air of injured innocence. "I was simply performing my duties as outlined in the HOA bylaws," she declared, her voice amplified by the microphone. "Ensuring property value and upholding community standards requires proactive assessment." Lily scoffed, a quiet sound that earned her a glare from Mrs. Crabtree. The prosecuting attorney, a sharp woman with tired eyes, simply nodded. "And this proactive assessment involved entering Ms. Bloom's private residence without permission?" Mrs. Crabtree bristled. "I had every reason to believe, that is, I intended to leave a notification. The door was unlocked." A blatant lie, Lily knew, and the smug satisfaction on Mrs. Crabtree's face curdled her stomach. Then came the satisfying click of the prosecutor loading the video evidence. The screen flickered to life, displaying Lily's living room starkly lit by the camera's infrared. There was Mrs. Crabtree, plain as day, measuring Lily's curtains with a grimace. Then the garden, Mrs. Crabtree's shadow falling across Lily's prized rose bushes as she paced, muttering about acceptable lawn lengths. A collective gasp rippled through the room. Even Mrs. Crabtree seemed to deflate, her confident facade crumbling. The judge, a portly man with a weary expression, cleared his throat. "Mrs. Crabtree," he said, his voice heavy with disapproval, "the evidence is conclusive. You are in violation of trespassing laws and will be held accountable." Peace at last. The verdict echoed in the small community hall, guilty. Mrs. Crabtree's face, normally a roadmap of disapproval, crumpled like discarded parchment. The fine was hefty, but it was the second part of the ruling that truly stung: immediate removal from her position as HOA president. A collective, almost imperceptible sigh swept through the room. Later, standing awkwardly near the refreshment table, Lily felt a tap on her shoulder. It was Mr. Henderson, a retired history teacher with kind eyes and a perpetually rumpled tie. "Lily, wasn't it?" he asked, offering a warm smile. "I'm your new HOA president, much to my surprise. I just wanted to say, those petunias in your window boxes are absolutely glorious. A real splash of color." Lily blinked, surprised. "Oh, thank you," she stammered, a genuine smile finally breaking through the anxiety that had clung to her for weeks. He chuckled. "Don't let anyone tell you different. This neighborhood needs more vibrancy, not less." He patted her arm and moved on, leaving Lily feeling lighter than she had in months. Walking back to her purple house, the setting sun painted the sky in hues of orange and violet. The air smelled of freshly cut grass and honeysuckle. She paused at her doorstep, gazing at the overflowing flower pots, the quirky wind chimes tinkling softly in the breeze. It wasn't just a house. It was her home, a sanctuary of color and creativity. For the first time since moving in, Lily truly felt at peace. The purple paint seemed to shimmer in the twilight, a vibrant declaration of her belonging.